After 40, money becomes a mirror. It reflects your habits, your courage, your self-education, and your discipline. The rich do not invest more because they have more. They have more because they learned how to invest. And the poor do not stay poor because they lack intelligence. They stay poor because they refuse to change a familiar pattern. You know, there comes a point in life when the chase begins to lose its shine. In your younger years, it was all about what you could earn, how fast you could grow, how much you could accumulate. I remember thinking that if I could just get a bigger paycheck, if I could just close one more deal or find one more opportunity, everything would finally fall into place. That kind of thinking is natural when you are young and trying to prove yourself to the world. But somewhere after 40, if you have been paying attention, a quieter, wiser voice begins to speak. It tells you that wealth is no longer about speed, it is about safety. It is no longer about expansion at any cost. It is about protection with purpose. You start to understand that money, like time, is precious because it is limited. You realize that one impulsive decision, one emotional investment, one flashy promise from someone who guarantees quick riches can undo years of careful effort. I have watched people chase trends, jump into schemes, and gamble on ideas they did not understand, all driven by fear and excitement rather than reason and discipline. They were not lacking intelligence, they were lacking patience. They confused movement with progress. After 40, if you are wise, you begin to slow down just enough to think. You stop letting your emotions handle your money, you start letting your mind lead instead. Protection becomes an act of self-respect. You build a reserve, not because you are afraid of the future, but because you finally accept that the future is unknown. You prepare for the unexpected the same way a farmer prepares for winter, with responsibility and foresight. You set aside months of living expenses, knowing that peace of mind is one of the greatest dividends you can ever earn. When you have that cushion, you no longer make desperate decisions, you choose with calm, and calm is a powerful financial advantage. You also begin to see expenses differently. In earlier years, spending felt like a reward. After 40, it begins to look like a thief. Every unnecessary purchase is revealed for what it really is, the theft of tomorrow's freedom. And so you trim, not because you are punishing yourself, but because you are honoring your future. You realize that wealth is not built by what you show the world, but by what you quietly keep working for you in the background. I learned that money must be treated like a disciplined student. It needs boundaries. It needs direction. When you prioritize preservation and steady growth, you give your money a purpose greater than momentary pleasure. It becomes a builder of stability, a protector of choice, a silent partner in your independence. After 40, wealth stops being a game. It becomes a responsibility, a legacy, a reflection of your wisdom. And discipline, practiced daily, becomes the guardian of your freedom. Let me tell you something I've learned over the years. Too many people mistake the shine of possessions for the strength of wealth. They think that a flashy car, a new gadget, or designer clothes are markers of success. I've seen it time and time again. People will stretch themselves thin, take on debt, and sacrifice their future just to display a lifestyle that, on the surface, looks prosperous. And while the neighbors may admire it, and social media might applaud it, the truth is simple: none of that works for you. None of it generates income. None of it secures freedom. It merely consumes the resources you could have used to create a real foundation of wealth. Wealth after 40 demands a different kind of thinking. You begin to see money not as something to spend, but as something to invest, something that should grow while you sleep, while you focus on your work, your family, your passions. Real assets, the kind that build lasting security, are those that pay you. They don't just sit there and look good, they generate cash flow, they appreciate, they compound quietly but powerfully. If it doesn't pay you, if it doesn't grow for you, it isn't an investment, it's a liability in disguise. I remember when I first started looking closely at what truly builds wealth. I had a friend who loved his car. He upgraded it every year, polished it to perfection, and yet he was constantly worrying about money. At the same time, another friend took the same amount of money he could have spent on a new vehicle and invested in a small property. That property rented, brought in steady income, and over time appreciated in value. 10 years later, the man with the car had nothing to show but depreciation. The man with the property had financial freedom. He could spend, invest further, or even leave as a legacy. The lesson is clear. Assets work for you, possessions work against you. So where should your money go? Focus on things that deliver returns. Dividend-paying stocks are an excellent example. They don't just sit in a brokerage account. They deposit cash into your hands periodically, letting you reinvest or use it however you choose. Rental properties are another avenue, if chosen wisely. They provide both appreciation over time and consistent monthly income. And don't overlook businesses. Owning a stake in a well-run business, even if small, teaches you about growth, risk management, and ultimately creates streams of revenue that can last decades. It takes discipline to resist the temptations of status. It requires the ability to delay gratification, to see beyond the momentary thrill of a purchase. But when you train your mind to distinguish between what earns for you and what only spends you, you gain a power most people never experience, the power of financial independence. Wealth after 40 isn't about impressing the world. It's about securing your freedom, and freedom comes from investments that pay, not possessions that drain. So remember, if it doesn't pay you, don't call it an investment, it's a distraction. When you reach your 40s, something remarkable happens. Life has shown you enough to understand that complexity is often the enemy of progress. You've seen people chase every opportunity, jump from one trend to another, and at the end of the year, they're exhausted, their accounts show little growth, and their confidence is shaken. I've met countless people who own dozens of stocks, follow every market tip, juggle multiple side ventures, and yet, when you ask them about their net worth, they shrug, unsure of what truly worked. Complexity, as exciting as it feels, often leads to confusion, indecision, and wasted energy. And wealth, my friends, is rarely built in chaos. It is built in simplicity, repeated daily, and executed with discipline. Here's the truth. You don't need 50 investments to create financial freedom. In fact, having too many can be a trap. The mind gets scattered, the money gets diluted, and opportunities slip through the cracks because you can't give anything your full attention. When I first started taking wealth seriously, I realized the power of focusing on a handful of strong assets. Just 3 to 5 investments, carefully chosen, monitored, and nurtured, can grow beyond what dozens of scattered bets ever could. Stocks that pay dividends, properties that produce rental income, a small business that steadily grows. These few things, done consistently, provide security and compounding power that is far more predictable than chasing every shiny idea that comes along. Automation is another ally. After 40, time becomes precious, and the temptation to tinker with every detail is dangerous. I learned to set up automatic transfers, regular contributions to my investment accounts, and scheduled reinvestments of earnings. This way, money works without constant supervision, and the discipline becomes mechanical, like brushing your teeth or checking the morning news. Automation ensures that your plan doesn't falter on days when your willpower is weak or emotions are high. It's not just convenience, it's strategy. Avoid overtrading or constant switching. The market will tempt you with every headline, every trend, every insider tip. But here's the hard lesson. Reacting to every fluctuation destroys growth. I've seen people buy and sell stocks dozens of times in a month, chasing fear and greed, and end up with losses that could have been avoided by patience. Wealth after 40 demands a long-term vision. You plant seeds today, water them consistently, and allow time to do the heavy lifting. Complexity tempts you to chase excitement. Simplicity gives your money a clear path to grow. And the beauty of a simple plan is that it allows you to focus on mastery instead of distraction. You can understand each asset deeply, know its risks and rewards, and act with confidence rather than doubt. Execution becomes effortless because clarity replaces confusion. A simple plan, passionately followed, consistently applied, will create wealth not just in numbers, but in peace of mind, freedom, and confidence. Remember this, it isn't about how many investments you hold, it's about how committed you are to a few strong ones. Complexity is the enemy, simplicity is the friend, and consistency is the secret. Stick to simplicity and watch fortune unfold. When you reach your 40s, you begin to see the true power of knowledge. Time, energy, and physical effort are valuable, but nothing rivals the leverage of what you know. I've met people who spent their lives working harder and longer, yet they struggled financially, while others who invested in learning and understanding the rules of money seemed to glide forward with ease. After 40, your financial education becomes more valuable than the hours you put in at a desk or the sweat you pour into a project. Knowledge multiplies every decision you make, and a single insight can save you from years of mistakes, wasted money, and missed opportunities. Think about it. A person who spends 1 hour each day studying how to invest, understand tax strategies, or analyze a business will gain wisdom that most people never acquire in decades. I remember when I first realized this truth myself. I was 35, juggling debt, modest income, and a confusing tangle of financial decisions. Then I made a decision. Every week, I would read at least one book on wealth, investment, or personal growth. I would take notes, reflect, and apply what I learned. Within a few years, I had knowledge that allowed me to avoid bad deals, spot opportunities early, and leverage every dollar in ways I could never have imagined when I was acting purely on instinct or urgency. You don't have to become a financial expert, but you do need to learn the language of money. Follow 2 or 3 investors whose track records and philosophies you respect. Watch what they do, listen to what they teach, and absorb the principles that consistently generate wealth. There is no substitute for observing and learning from those who have already walked the path. Your goal is to build a mental toolkit so that when decisions arise, you act with intelligence rather than emotion, with insight rather than fear. Taxes, interest, compounding, asset allocation, these are not abstract concepts. They are tools that determine whether your money grows or evaporates. Many people overlook the importance of learning about tax strategy. Understanding even a few basic principles can save thousands of dollars annually, freeing capital that can be reinvested to produce more wealth. I have personally seen individuals turn modest investments into substantial portfolios simply by applying tax-efficient strategies they learned through reading, mentors, and careful observation. And then there is the power of long-term compounding, a concept so simple yet so profoundly misunderstood. Money left to grow intelligently over years expands far beyond what short-term effort can achieve. A single disciplined decision, guided by knowledge, repeated consistently, can compound into a life-changing fortune. But without understanding the mechanics of compounding, people make impulsive moves, incur unnecessary fees, or panic at market fluctuations, losing the magic of time. So, after 40, your biggest returns come not from working harder physically, but from investing in your mind. Each hour of focused learning is leverage. Each lesson applied is a brick in the foundation of financial freedom. Your mind becomes your most powerful asset, your compass, and your shield. Commit to learning, and you'll find that what you gain in 1 hour can easily save you 10 years of struggle. Knowledge is no longer optional. It is the currency of real wealth. You see, one of the biggest shifts in thinking after 40 is realizing that a paycheck is not wealth, it's just a ticket to spend. For decades, we are trained to chase salaries, promotions, and raises, thinking that a higher number on a paycheck is the ultimate security. But here's the truth. Salaries stop. They vanish the moment you stop working, the moment the company changes direction, or the moment life throws a curveball. Real wealth comes from cash flow, the streams of income that keep moving long after you've stopped trading hours for dollars. I've seen it countless times in my life, and in the lives of those who built true freedom. Cash flow is freedom, and freedom is priceless. Think about it. When I was younger, I focused on climbing the corporate ladder, believing that more money in my pocket would solve all my problems. But the more I earned, the more I spent, and the more dependent I became on a single source of income. Then I began exploring alternative streams, investing in dividend-paying stocks, acquiring rental properties, and building small ventures on the side. At first, these were modest, almost experimental efforts. But as I learned and repeated these practices, I discovered a pattern. The money that comes in while I sleep, while I teach, while I am focused elsewhere, accumulates and compounds. That is the power of cash flow. You can start small. You don't need $1 million business to begin. A simple side venture, even a digital course or a helpful tool online, can create residual income. I remember mentoring a young man who was still in his 40s, working long hours in an office he didn't love. He invested just a little time in creating a simple digital course based on his expertise. Within a year, that course generated income every month without him having to clock in. That's cash flow. That's leverage. That's the secret the rich understand. You don't retire from work, you retire from needing a paycheck. Rental income is another timeless avenue. Owning property is not about vanity or decoration. It's about creating streams of income that are predictable, stable, and growing. Even a single rental unit can start small but compound over time with careful management and reinvestment. The key is discipline. Treat each asset like a worker, assign it a task, monitor its performance, and reinvest the profits wisely. You are no longer a passive observer of your financial life. You are the manager of multiple income streams. The mindset here is crucial. Rich people think in terms of ownership, not labor. They know that time is finite, but income streams, when properly structured, are infinite. Start today with something manageable. Invest in dividends, acquire a rental property, or create a digital asset. Each small cash flow is a brick in the foundation of financial freedom. Over time, these bricks build walls of security, corridors of opportunity, and a roof of independence that no single paycheck can ever provide. The goal is to own income, not just earn it. And when you master that, you master your freedom. You know, one of the most powerful shifts after 40 is learning to see age not as a limitation, but as a remarkable advantage. Too often people use 40, 50, or 60 as an excuse. I'm too old to start, too late to invest, too slow to learn. But here's the reality. Age is not a hurdle, it's power. By this stage of life, You've earned wisdom through experience, cultivated discipline through years of habit, built networks of people who can open doors, and acquired insights that no textbook could ever teach. Those who recognize this fact transform their financial life because they stop chasing shortcuts and start making intelligent, informed, and deliberate choices. When I was in my 40s, I realized that the mistakes I made in my 20s were valuable. They taught me patience, focus, and caution. I had earned the right to invest differently, to take calculated risks, and to trust long-term strategies rather than the illusions of fast money. I remember meeting an investor in his 50s who had resisted the temptation of hot tips and overnight riches. Instead, he applied his decades of insight to select a few solid assets that he understood. 10 years later, those choices had multiplied quietly but powerfully. He didn't need luck. He had knowledge, discipline, and timing. That's what age gives you, the ability to see opportunities clearly while avoiding distractions that tempt the inexperienced. This is where the strategy shifts. You no longer speculate wildly. You invest in things you understand. You align your money with your experience and your insight. That could be a sector you know deeply, a business model you've seen succeed, or a partnership where you bring wisdom and they bring energy. You start thinking in decades rather than days, seeing wealth creation as a long-term project that compounds steadily over time. I remember mentoring a friend who had just turned 40. He was hesitant to invest because he felt he had lost time, but I told him, you have time, but you also have clarity. That's better than youth. Use it. He began investing in industries he had worked in, leveraging contacts he had built over the years, and the results came steadily. Age had become his ally. Partnerships also matter more after 40. Younger investors sometimes feel they must do everything alone, but at this stage, you know who is trustworthy, who has competence, and who complements your skills. Collaborating with smarter people, or those with energy you may not have, magnifies the results. I've seen small teams of midlife professionals create streams of income that dwarf anything they could have achieved alone in their 20s. The final point is perspective. Youth has energy, yes, but it lacks focus and experience. Age gives you perspective, patience, and power. Use it. Avoid the illusions of overnight wealth. Play the long game and invest with understanding. When you do, your 40s, 50s, and beyond are not a time of limitation. They are the most powerful financial years of your life. Your experience is your advantage, and if you act wisely, no one, no market, no circumstance can take that from you. You know, one of the biggest mistakes people make with money is wandering through life hoping that wealth will somehow find them. They say, I want to be rich someday, or I hope my finances improve, but hope is not a strategy, it's a wish. And a wish rarely builds anything substantial. The moment you turn vague desires into a clear financial target, you transform your thinking, your actions, and ultimately, your results. Rich people don't drift. They decide. They define exactly what they want, down to the numbers, and then every choice, every investment, every sacrifice aligns with that vision. When I was building my own financial foundation, I realized that my early 20s were filled with hope but no direction. I earned, I spent, I learned, but I had no defined destination. Everything changed the day I sat down and wrote a specific target, a net worth goal, an income goal, and a timeline to achieve it. Suddenly, money became a tool, not a distraction. Every decision I made after that had purpose. It wasn't about frivolous spending or guessing at investments. It was about moving deliberately toward that number. That clarity changed my approach entirely. The key is specificity. Don't just say, I want more passive income. Decide on the exact amount you need each month to live the life you want without worrying about work. Don't just say, I want to be wealthy. Define your net worth goal for the next 5, 10, and 20 years. Break it down into quarters and years. Know what portion will come from assets, what portion from business, what portion from investments. When you measure progress monthly, you see what's working and what isn't, and you can course correct immediately. Without measurement, goals are invisible, and invisible goals never become reality. I remember mentoring a man in his 40s who was frustrated with his financial stagnation. He had earned well, but felt he would never get ahead. I asked him, "Do you know exactly where you want to be?" He looked at me blankly. He had numbers in his head, but they weren't written down or quantified. We spent the day defining a clear target: passive income, investment goals, savings, milestones. The transformation was immediate. He approached each decision differently, invested more intelligently, and a year later, he was already ahead of the curve he had previously thought unattainable. That's the power of clarity. Vague goals create vague results. Defined goals create focused actions. When you know the destination, every decision, every risk, every opportunity becomes aligned with your plan. You don't leave your financial future to luck or hope. You navigate with precision. The clarity gives you confidence, purpose, and urgency. Without it, you drift. With it, you command your journey. So, if there's one action to take today, it's this: define your target. Write down the number. Break it into actionable steps. Measure progress consistently. Until you do, you remain a passenger in your own financial life. Once you decide, once you define, once you measure, you take the wheel. And that's when wealth stops being a dream and becomes a direction. You see, wealth isn't only measured by money. True wealth is a combination of knowledge, experience, and influence. And one of the most overlooked ways to grow both is by teaching what you know. After 40, you've accumulated lessons the hard way. Mistakes, wins, observations, insights that only time can give you. And here's the secret. Sharing that knowledge doesn't deplete it, it multiplies it. Every time you teach, mentor, or coach, your understanding deepens, your influence grows, and opportunities you never imagined begin to appear. I learned this lesson early in my own life. When I started mentoring, I wasn't thinking about income at first. I just wanted to pass on the wisdom I had struggled to earn. But what happened surprised me. Doors opened, partnerships emerged, ideas I hadn't considered before gained momentum, and my own thinking became sharper. Explaining a concept to someone else forced me to organize my thoughts, to see gaps, to clarify strategies. The act of sharing knowledge transformed me into a more capable and resourceful person, and eventually, it transformed my financial trajectory. Practical action is simple yet powerful. Begin by mentoring younger people around you, colleagues, family members, or even friends who are eager to learn. Don't wait for a formal setting. These small acts of guidance create ripples. Next, package your experience into something tangible. Write, speak, create content, or even run workshops. These are not just ways to earn money. They are ways to leave a legacy while increasing your own clarity and influence. The more you share, the more your ideas, strategies, and insights gain momentum, and the more people recognize your authority, which often translates into opportunities for financial growth. I remember a client in his 50s who had built a successful career but never thought about teaching. I encouraged him to start small, offer advice to younger colleagues, and write a short guide on his work strategies. Within months, he was invited to speak at conferences, consult with companies, and his side income began to grow. What started as giving freely of knowledge became an entirely new channel of revenue and influence. And he often said the act of teaching made him richer than any paycheck ever could. It clarified his thinking, strengthened his confidence, and connected him with people he would have never met otherwise. It's important to realize that knowledge has a multiplier effect. Money can sit idle. Investments can grow slowly. Knowledge, when shared, multiplies exponentially. Each person you impact can, in turn, impact others, and you benefit from the network, the respect, and the opportunities that emerge naturally. Sharing is not charity, it's strategy. Every lesson, every story, every insight you pass along becomes a seed that bears fruit for both you and those around you. So if there's a single principle to grasp here, it's this: teach what you know, mentor, coach, write, speak, create content. Every time you share, you strengthen your own understanding, increase your influence, and multiply your wealth in ways that no bank account can replicate. The richer you make others in knowledge, the richer you become, not just in money, but in power, opportunity, and legacy. Now, my friends, let me leave you with a truth that is as simple as it is powerful. Wealth, freedom, and a life of purpose are not reserved for the young, the lucky, or the born privileged. They are built step by step, decision by decision, habit by habit. I've shared strategies, practical steps, and perspectives, but none of that will matter unless you take ownership of your life today. You can listen to every speech, read every book, follow every investor, and still wake up a year from now in exactly the same place. If action doesn't follow knowledge, action is the bridge between the life you have and the life you desire. Think about where you are right now. Not hypothetically, not in some vague future, but this very moment. Look at your finances, your habits, your mindset. Are you being led by circumstance, or are you taking control? Are you letting fear, indecision, or procrastination dictate your life? Or are you stepping into your own authority? Because here's the reality. The world will continue to move at its pace, opportunities will not pause, and the clock will never slow down. Every day you delay, you give away leverage, you surrender potential, and you compound regret. But the beautiful thing is this: you can start today, not tomorrow, not Monday, not when the stars align. Today is all you need to begin. Your next step is simple yet profound. Take one strategy, one habit, one principle we've discussed, and apply it immediately. Write down your financial target and break it into achievable steps. Sit in silence tomorrow morning and reconnect with your inner compass. Move your body, ignite your energy, and envision the person you want to become. Create a plan, stick to it, and watch momentum build. Small, consistent actions are what create extraordinary results over time. Wealth is not an accident. It is the outcome of disciplined decisions compounded consistently. I want you to understand this deeply. Your financial life is a mirror of your decisions. If you want freedom, you must act with discipline. If you want influence, you must share what you know. Every dollar, every hour, every thought is either a tool or a trap. Treat it as sacred. Treat it as an opportunity. Because when you manage your money wisely, when you invest in assets, when you build cash flow, when you educate yourself, when you teach others, you are not just creating wealth, you are creating freedom, confidence, and a legacy that will outlive you. So, my friends, make the choice today. Commit to action. Decide to move from being a follower of circumstance to being the architect of your life. The principles are clear. The steps are simple. What remains is your courage, your discipline, and your willingness to act. Take that step and watch how one decision, compounded with daily action, transforms your financial future, your mindset, and ultimately, your life. The time to begin is now. Do not wait. Your future, your freedom, and your legacy are in your hands. Make them count.